let me start by talking about Unbox. Unbox is a youth empowerment initiative, and we have started this initiative to help the students to build their emotional skills, emotional strength, mental strength, and also to reduce the stress, depression, and anxiety, plus also to prevent suicides. Thank you all for being here and being a part of this show. Now I would like to introduce the guests for today. We have two volunteers from the Roshni NGO. As you all know, Roshni is a suicide intervention helpline which is free and confidential. And to talk a little more about Roshni, I would like to invite one of the senior volunteers who has been with them for over 16 years and also takes the calls, helps the students, helps the people to come out of their anxieties and the stress which they are facing. So let me invite, and she's also been a teacher, been a part of the army fraternity. Let me invite Ms. Rajlakshmi, who's going to tell us a brief about Roshni. Over to you, Rajlakshmi.
Dear friends, I would like to introduce Roshni and the services we offer. There are times in our life when we feel very low, depressed, let down, and feel no one cares for us. At times, life becomes so painful and we just feel like ending it all. Roshni is started in 1997 in Secunderabad by a handful of caring volunteers who wanted to reach out and give emotional support to people. Today, we are a family of 60 trained volunteers who come from different walk of life. People can contact us in our helpline numbers, which is going on the scroll, and email and visit the center and the address also. That they can write letters on this address also. And we work on all the 7 days from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Our service is free and confidential. Our helpline number is given here.
So let me introduce the second guest for today. That is Jyoti, who is a lecturer in Railway Junior College. She is a PhD, and let her talk about herself and why she feels associated, why she is associated, and how she is associated with Roshni. Over to you, Jyoti.
Thank you, Mr. Riaz. Good evening, friends. I'm a volunteer from Roshni. I'm Jyoti, and basically I'm a teacher. I've been teaching to teenagers since 25 years. Yeah, Roshni, I've been a volunteer at Roshni since 10 years because the concept of intervening between life and death is something which is very close to my heart. Yes, personally, even I've gone through rough times, and I know how you feel when you're actually in a rough phase. So I just thought maybe I may be of some use to people who are walking on the same road which I have been walking all through my life. And hence I'm here, trained as a volunteer to talk to people because I believe that listening helps. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you both of you for giving that lovely introduction about yourself and how you got associated. It's a wonderful initiative. Roshni, the name itself says light. That's the light which everybody needs in their life, especially in the dark times. So let me begin by asking you, Jyoti, can you give a brief overview about what the audience can gain today? We have a lot of people, about 20 plus people watching the show. A brief overview of what they can expect to gain today.
There's so much. I think we're not coming up with some new information, because we just believe that communication is very important in our lives, and due to a busy schedule now, we are talking to people, we are talking to each other, but we are not properly communicating. So today, I think with this session, we will actually understand what is proper communication and how to understand, how to read between the lines, and also accept that sometimes just like your body feels sick, your mind also feels sick, and there is nothing wrong if you seek professional help when you feel low at times and you feel stressed out, because the times are such that there's so many multiple things going on in a person's life. It's not like 2 generations ago. The people have to be fast, they have to move fast, they have to think fast, and there's so much rushing around going, and it definitely pulls down your energy levels, and sometimes you feel very low in life, and you also may feel useless, you may feel helpless, and at that time you have to understand that it is a normal phase. It's the stress which is actually eating you up, and if you cannot cope up with this individually, you can always seek professional help. So we encourage you all to talk, because we believe that when you properly communicate, properly speak out your feelings, properly allow the other person to understand you, and if you reach out for help, help is available. That's what I want to say
Fantastic.
through this session.
Fantastic. So let me welcome all the guests here. Tabassum from Hyderabad. We have Anu Alexander, Arya, Usha Sri, Sandhya Rani, Baby Doll, Ashwini, Mamta, Drishya, Manjunath. Thank you all for being here and being a part of this evening today. I'm sure everybody will gain a lot. And as Jyoti said, that the key point is communication and listening even within that. And that's where I think Roshni gives a lending ear, somebody where you can pour your problems to. And that's where we need to focus on, whether we are at school, at home, wherever we are with our relationships. I think that's where the problem is. So coming back to you, Jyoti, let's define this. What is mental health? Because everybody keeps talking about mental health and we have a lot of programs and somebody says my mental health should be good, better, bad. So how do you differentiate between stress, anxiety, depression? And can you just give a brief about what is mental health so that we are clear on this term?
Then the same way question, you should not always be followed by a question. But what do you say? Like, what is physical health? When you are fit, you are able to do everything, and you feel energetic. That means you're physically okay. The same thing with the mind also. If your thoughts are good, I mean to say that if your thoughts are logical, you are able to think properly, and you have a relaxed peacefulness inside your brain. That means everything is going on well with your brain. But sometimes when there is so much of anxiety, so much of other issues, and there's a lot of confusion inside your mind, then that is where it's a symptom which says that your mind needs a kind of help. It needs an outlet. It needs to talk out. It needs a ventilation point. And that is where when you actually have to start thinking about proper communication. And if that doesn't happen, then it leads to a lot of confusion inside your mind, and it leads to ill health. And this ill health may be of any kind. Sometimes it can be short-lived, sometimes it can be long-lived, sometimes it can go for years also. And when a very rare issues like 0.55%, it is also a genetic reason behind, which actually acts on the mental health also. So when you are not happy with your mind, when you're not logical in your thoughts, then that means there is something wrong with your thought process, and that is where you have to seek help.
Very nice. So mental health, just like you could say physical health, something which affects the mind. We are not happy, we are worried, and when it lasts for a longer period of time and it starts affecting your behavior and maybe your physical health also, because it's all interconnected. We are part of one body. Our mental health affects our physical health, and physical health affects our mental health. And wherever we need help, we should seek it. And that is the most important point we want to stress today. That just like you get a cold, get a fever, get tough, and you go to a doctor, similarly, if something affects the mind, don't hesitate in reaching out to somebody, because a small problem can be solved in a less time. But if it becomes chronic, then it may start affecting you, start affecting your relationships, your performance, your profession, your own health, and start deteriorating. So never feel shy of saying that, okay, I'm not feeling well mind-wise, so let me seek help. And that's what we are all here for, to help remove that stigma and tell you what these wonderful people are doing. Thank you all for joining. Anybody else who has joined? Suresh, Shreya, Mahipal. We have people from Mumbai, Bangalore joining in. Thank you for being here. So let me ask Rajilakshmi. So you have this nice counseling and suicide intervention helpline. So who can call this helpline, and how do you deal with the callers? So suppose I have a fight with my wife, can I call you up and say that she didn't cook well and I had a fight? Or who should call up your helpline?
Anybody can call us. Whoever wants to talk out, when they don't have anybody else to share their feelings, they can talk to us, because it is totally confidential and non-judgmental. We don't say you are wrong, your wife is wrong, you could have done like that. We don't say all those things. We are non-judgmental. We just listen. And this helps remove the emotional cloud from the caller's mind and clears up his thoughts.
Okay.
Giving them more strength to cope up with the situation. Knowing that he is not alone, there is somebody to share their feelings, understand them. That's what we do. Anybody can call us.
Fantastic.
We
So
do
anybody
get
not
calls from 8-year-old child to even 80 years old person. We do get calls.
okay?
And
That's very, very interesting.
yeah,
That's very interesting. So how do you deal with them? You just listen to them and give your ideas. What do you do? What do you do?
we listen to them without judging them or without intruding into their talk. Whatever they want to talk, whatever they want to empty their mind, whatever the feelings, they talk to us. Then afterwards, we just talk to them. We don't give any suggestions. We don't give do this, do that, and all those things. We just talk to them how they feel, what makes them to feel like that. Have they thought of any other
Yeah,
thing in their mind? Can they approach anything else like that? The choice is theirs. The decision
very
is
nice.
theirs. Yeah.
Very nice. So I want to highlight one point which you have said, that being non-judgmental while listening. I think this is one very, very important point highlighted by Suma. Thank you for that. That whenever we listen, we need to be non-judgmental. So I think whatever you are speaking today is something which a lot of us can apply in our day-to-day lives. So that
Yeah.
whenever we are listening, whether we are listening to our elders, whether to our colleagues, or whether to our children, we need to be non-judgmental. Just listen. Just say yes. Okay, I'm hearing you. I'm listening to you. I'm understanding you, without giving suggestions. Oh, you shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have done this. Why did you do this? I told you not to do this. So that's all becoming non-judgmental. But when you listen, just for listening, that's when a person is really opening up to you, and that's, I think, that's what you're doing. That is listening without judgment. I think that's a key point which I can gather from your from your answer. So let me ask Jyoti, what causes, so we hear that a lot of students tend to go into stress, depression, and we do hear of suicide sometimes before the exams, sometimes during the exams, and also after the exams when the results are out. So what causes this kind of stress, depression among students? Can you just outline a few areas which our audience can understand and take home and work on them, Jyoti?
Yeah. Actually, at Roshni, we believe that suicide is not a wish to die, it's a cry for help. So whether it's a student or anybody who tries suicide or takes it as an option for coming out of a problem, that means they really are not intending to embrace death, but they want to come out of a problem. It's actually they're seeking a solution for a temporary problem. So in that case, if you actually see the student's case, especially before exams or after exams, the main problem with them is they are not able to accept the facts. Accept the facts is accept the things that maybe it's a failure, fear of failure, and they're anxious about the result. And most of the time, they don't want to share their problems with the elders also, because they feel they'll be judged. And sometimes they always feel that there's a generation gap, and so they feel very lonely, and because they feel all the time in their life they have been just showing the best faces to their friends. So when they're really depressed, they just don't want to show that they are weak. They don't want to accept that they are weak. So these are all the mixed feelings which actually dominate a student. And a student, definitely, if you talk about a student, that means will be between around 14 to 20 years old. So between this age, their experience levels are less, and then the confidence levels when they go down, and especially that's the age when the hormones are full in bloom. That is the age when they are totally confident. This higher level of confidence, when it comes down, students at this particular age can't take it, and immediately they go into the bouts of depression, and that is when they feel they have to end the problem. And to end the problem, they feel the first option is ending life. It is this delicate period when they have to be addressed properly, and the options have to be discussed with them. They have to be open for discussion, and that is where, again, I repeat, that communication comes into the picture, and it is very important for them to speak about what they're feeling.
Thank you for that. So what you're saying is basically a person who's either on the edge or who commits suicide or trying to commit suicide is basically a cry for help. and that help has not been forthcoming from the people around him in whatever form, for whatever reasons. We don't blame anybody. And it's a cry for help. And again, like you said, that it's a delicate period when there are lots of, these on a roller coaster of emotional ride, ups and downs, and there is sudden confidence and there is sudden low self-esteem, high self-esteem, high confidence, low confidence. And again, there is also that pressure coming from the school, coming from the parents, coming from the peer, and self-created pressure as well to perform in exams and top or get into a particular stream. There are so many of them. So those are the reasons which you have highlighted. So out of this, let me pick up one, that is communication, since you want to focus a little more on the communication.
Yeah.
How can we improve the communication, let's say within the family, between the parents, students, or maybe even the teacher student, that communication part? Can you throw a little, how can we make it more two-way and people who can understand, listen, how can we do that?
That atmosphere at home should never be imposing. Like, there should be a lot of discussion which goes on between two generations, especially when they're staying under the same roof. Maybe they differ in a lot of things what they think about, and the value systems also may differ. That is what we're seeing in the present generation. But even in that case, there should be an open discussion at home. A atmosphere where a person can actually openly speak up his thoughts. The kind of atmosphere which actually is necessary in a home atmosphere, and that kind of time has to be shared between the older generation, I mean the parents and the children. But today we find that everybody are rushing around. They spend time, but they don't have the quality time to spend. They may go to a movie together, they may go to some places together, but they don't sit down and talk like what happened today. What are you going through? Like, who are your friends? What happened? Like, how did you go and spend your time? And what are you thinking about? These general things actually, which touch human emotions. These type of questions are not happening in the family. That is where you're talking too much with each other. I said, we are talking, but we are not talking properly. Like, children think that they have a private life and they hide things, and parents think that children are eligible to have a private life, and so they also feel hesitant to ask a few questions. The proper hard questions which happen between parents and students or the children is a very important phase, and it is where the proper understanding happens. But nowadays, with a lot of tips on parenting going around, a lot of parents also are hesitant to ask the right questions, and students, I mean the children also do not want to speak to the parents, but they choose to speak to the peer group on a problem, then confiding it to the parents. That is where the problem starts.
Okay.
There is a kind of a fear concept. In India, we have a fear concept among parents and children. Either the fear dominates or a kind of dominant structure in the patriarchal structure dominates. That is where the proper communication is not happening in families.
Right. That's very interesting. So let me just share a few ideas which our guests, our viewers have shared. Mamta says that nowadays, no ears to hear, life is busy. So everyone is busy rushing around. We need to really pull out time and sit down and discuss, maybe over food, or have some specific time when all the gadgets are off. I think the gadgets are also disturbing a lot. Then Shreya says, ma'am, a few people don't like to share their problems. So that's another problem, in the sense that people don't want to share. They feel, be brave, be strong, and don't share their problem. I think that's another area where we need to work on. So if you have a problem, it's good to say that I have a problem and help me. So seeking help itself is a brave thing to do, I feel, rather than just suffocating inside. And then Arya says, fear means face everything and rise instead of forget everything and run. Yeah, that's a nice quote. Also, viewers, anybody has a question for our panelists, please feel free to quote the question here.
There's a question here. Riaz has a question. Somebody is asking, like, Vandana Rizvi, what if children don't want to share at all?
Okay, good question. Please, let me flash this. Yeah, go ahead. Please answer this question.
Yeah, that is where the proper encouragement should come from a parent, that children should be always given a thought that the parents are ready to listen to them, whether they agree to it or disagree. So there should be an atmosphere where it's not necessary to agree to everything what the child says. From a very tender age, when you start encouraging the child to talk whatever comes in his mind, and then understand him, like not being judgmental, it will be very easy to actually correct the child. But what we have do is like we impose a particular system in a family, and at a later stage when they stop, they shut themselves totally completely. That is where the parents complain the children are not sharing. But you, as a parent, also need to encourage the child to speak up and tell him that it is okay to speak. Whether I may disagree, but you need to speak out. You need to speak. This kind of it's a very slow process. Like you have to inject this right from the childhood, where the child is comfortable to speak. And among the two parents, or it's always better if you have an extended family, there is somebody with whom the child is comfortable. So always encourage that this child. Don't be egoistic as a parent that your child is not. Instead, if you feel that your child is close to somebody else, maybe a teacher, maybe a grandparent, maybe an uncle or an aunt, encourage that person to actually be close to them and then talk to them. Because in that way, you can get second-handedly, you can get the information from the other person, and the right time you can help your child.
Very
Most of the
nice.
teenagers, they are reluctant. They don't talk to their parents, but they definitely will be having an outlet in the same family, in extended family, maybe in grandparents, uncles or aunt. There is somebody who is close to the parent, to this boy, and they can monitor what the boy is feeling. And that's how sometimes parents. But nowadays, with one child and two childs, most of the parents are very egoistic. They want the child to speak everything to them only, which doesn't happen in many families. So it's always better to be a second-hander and get the second-hand information, but somebody from the extent. That is where the family support comes in.
Very nice. So what you're saying is that create conditions for the communication to happen, and that environment has to be congenial for a person to speak. It can happen only when it is non-judgmental, because the moment a child says, let's say a simple thing like, I lost my pen. Why did you lose it? You're always losing. You're always doing this. So the moment you start saying things like this, obviously the communication will end. The next time the child will never tell you that. So the point, like you said, that being non-judgmental means listening, creating a cordial atmosphere, and it cannot be on and off. Okay, now I'm giving you 10 minutes to speak and speak on. It doesn't happen that way. The communication also doesn't happen. It may happen when you're just sitting, when it may happen when you're eating, it may happen at any point of time. So, but the point is that another point which I feel that we tend to look at, just because he's a child, he's small, doesn't mean he doesn't have an opinion. He has an opinion which may be right, okay, as per his point of view. So treat a child as a person, not as a youngster or a teenager. The moment we put labels, again, it kind of a fixation that a teenager does this, teenager does it. I think if we say a child is a person with a view, so accept the view.
Yeah.
Like you said, that you don't have to agree or disagree. That's another issue. But at least let the persons or let the child person speak. That way we can connect with them better. And when the communication is two-way, it's always better. All those who have joined now, thank you for joining in. We have a lot of viewers today. Thank you for joining in. If you have any questions, please feel free to post the questions. Our panelists will answer. Yeah, please go ahead.
There's an important question here. I think there is some background behind this question. That's the reason I want you to bring it to your notice. If few people doesn't feel like to share their problems, but still they try to convey, and then at the end they die, as they weren't able to convey or weren't able to get out of it, what does the person do? I think, should I take it like this? Is this question about a suicide survivor? They try to convey and at the end they die, as they weren't able to convey or weren't able to get out of it. What does the person do? I mean to say that you lost somebody to suicide. I mean that somebody was trying to tell you something, not properly communicate, or whether you are not able to see the signs and symptoms and you lost the person, then what are you supposed to do? Is this how I should understand it? Then yeah, and then if it is, I think that's what the person
go ahead with your understanding. We can ask Shreya to explain further in case, but whatever is your understanding, just clarify.
When this kind of thing happens, definitely there is so much guilt in a person. I think I can find that in this answer. When you lose a person who was trying to communicate or convey something to you and you're not able to take it, or maybe the person was not able to convey it properly and he or she died, then yes, there'll be so much of guilt with that, but that's a very sad situation. In that case, we have to understand that nothing is actually totally in our hands. And 100%, whether it's your kith and kin also, their lives and their emotions cannot be controlled by just you. It's the society which works on them. Sometimes when you're not able to reach out to a person and something like this happens, then you have to be strong and take that incident as one incident which happened in your life, because it's really a very sad incident and it is very difficult for a suicide survivor to face it. Sometimes it haunts you all through your life. I'm sorry, there must be some background behind this question. I feel very sorry to answer this, but yes, it's a very difficult situation, and in this situation, you need to accept that you are just one human being on this planet, and you cannot control the life. You can only help it. That's why in Roshni also,
Yeah, that's what she's answered.
she says, I asked this question as I've gone through this situation. I'm so sorry, Shreya. Yes, you have to understand that you are just a human being, and you do not control other people's life. You only can help them. Even if you're a sister, you're a friend, you're a mother, or you're a daughter, even then you can just help a person, but you just can't take control of their lives, and that is what you have to accept. That is the reason why at Roshni also we call ourselves as suicide intervention organization. We don't say we can stop a suicide, we can only intervene in between. So you have to understand that some things are out of a control also. If you have tried your best, that's the only thing as a human being you can do. I'm so sorry, but I think you have to talk to us personally, because yes, we both need to have a one-to-one talk. And please call back, Roshni. Call to Roshni,
Yeah,
please.
because
That's
we
very
can't force
interesting.
ourselves even to accept the help also.
Because I can't elaborate on this media, but I definitely will be happy to talk to you. Our counselors at Roshni will be really happy to talk to you, and we want to talk to you. Thank you.
That's very nice. Thank you for that answer.
And yeah, I appreciate this girl for coming out and speaking out, because it really needs a lot of energy and a lot of guts to actually speak out in open. I appreciate her, and I really, as a Roshnite, I want to talk to her. Thank you so much.
Very nice, ma'am. Thank you for answering that question. We have one more question. I think this is a student which says, what should one do if the parents and family think that us being emotional is just for seeking attention? Have you understood the question?
Yeah.
Yes, I understood the question.
Okay.
I understood.
Yeah, Rajalakshmi, will you take it?
Yeah, Raj-Lakshmi, please answer this question.
Rajalakshmi, please.
In that case, yeah, we have come across that also. Even the children, even in the school also, they don't like to talk to the teacher, share their this thing, or with their friends, even at home, like that. That's why we go to places to talk to them. We go to schools and talk to the children, and that time they can talk to us. We give our number. They can reach out to us anytime at the given time, 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock, or sorry, morning 11 to 9 o'clock, evening. They can reach out to us. They have to talk to somebody. I understand their fear, because friends, they may be laughing at them, and parents may be not listening to them. The teacher or anybody may be judgmental, so they can talk to us. That is why the Roshni comes into.
Sometimes
Jyoti
it
ma'am,
also
you have
helps
something
that
to
when
add?
somebody thinks, yeah, when some people think that you are seeking attention, you should make them understand that you are seeking, maybe you are seeking attention, but you are doing it because they are important to you, and their acceptance is also important to you. So if you positively deal with a situation when somebody is misjudging you that you are only an attention seeker, you communicate to them that their acceptance is important to you. Sometimes when you accept the person as how they are feeling towards you, they will tend to think you on a human level, and they will come down to your level and try to understand. It's a very slow process. Remember, human relations are the most complicated thing on the earth, and it happens because we want everybody to think in our way, which doesn't happen. So yes, many people think that you are an attention seeker. Then tell them that I'm an attention seeker and I need this attention, your attention, because you are important to me. And look, the relationship changes from there.
Fantastic. So I would think that if a child is asking for the attention of parents, it's absolutely fine. What is wrong? The child has a problem. He or she is seeking attention, and she's bound to reach out to the parents. Who else is he or she going to reach out to? And I think it's a good question which you have asked. Thank you for that. And I think she's also put up another question that we feel that in our opinion does not matter as we are not involved in decisions concerning home. So it is a follow-up question. So the same issue, I think, reach out to maybe the Roshni helpline and discuss with them. Probably they'll be able to give you some way out, and maybe talk to your uncle or grandparents. And the fact is, what your need is, I believe, is genuine. So there's no doubting that whoever is seeking attention for a purpose, and he or she is absolutely justified. And if they don't get attention, that's where the problem starts. So absolutely, I agree with this. And so let me flash one more question. It says, is generation gap and difference in values creating the conflict of no communication between children and parents? So generation gap. Can you talk about generation gap a bit?
Yes, that is a direct question. Yes, generation gap and the changes in values in the generations is definitely creating a problem. But in that case, we have to understand that there are some things we have to accept in our children, though we like it or we don't like it also. The children can only be, given a guidance. Like, you cannot force them to come to your value system. You can only guide them, and you can only give them information that you are always available for them. And sometimes it is always better to accept that you both belong to two different generations. And if it's an younger generation, they have to also understand that parents may not belong to your generation, but they have something called experience. And when they talk something, there is an experience which counts. So a stable life is something which goes through the practicality and also with the experience what the parents are trying to share with. So there should be a balance, and to creating this balance is the main problem nowadays, because we absolutely, as somebody said, there's no time between the generation gap between the generations. But yes, generation gap is a very big thing for which people are trying to be non-communicating with each other. But this is the right time when you have to communicate more instead of silence. This is where you need to communicate more and help each other to understand each other for a balanced kind of a life in your system. But remember, both the generations will be having disappointments either way. The parents also should be ready for certain disappointments from the children, and the children also should be ready with a kind of disappointments from the parents. That acceptance of disappointment also is helpful for a healthy relationship.
So acceptance is a very, very important part, wherein every person needs to see that times are different during the parents' generation. Parents need to see that times are different now. As parents, many times we tend to think that no, in our time we did this, in our time we did this. So those kind of statements actually blocks communication. So the child will say that in your time you didn't have gadgets. Okay. Same with the students also. They also need to reach out to the parents and understand that okay, parents have been through a different time, and that way I think the way to bridge a generation gap is through communication. We cannot expect a 60-year-old to behave like a 16-year-old. Neither a 16 to behave like a 60. Each generation, each age has its own characteristics. You need to accept that, but still understand and give some, be patient with the other generation. I think that's communication can actually help. So we have one more question. Please, I just want to flash this. This is important. This is from Sirisha. My child feels that I'm stopping her from friends. If I won't allow her Instagram, she's becoming stubborn. Please suggest me what to do. Can you understand and give some suggestions to Sirisha? Thank you, Sirisha, for this question.
That we have to.
Yeah, Jyoti, please
not
answer.
Always stopping them or always snubbing them like that. We have to tell them nicely and slowly, and when it is needed. You can't always stop the child. You have to give some time for the child for its own activities. And when during the time of examination or when the homework has to be done, that time we have to explain to them which is important. That we have to put it in a proper tone, proper way, like how the child can understand, without raising our voice, without in a hurry. We have to we have to handle them like there is a saying, handle like a kid. So we have to handle them like a kid only that time. whether it is using the Instagram or going out with the friends to play. When tomorrow the test is that the child hasn't finished the lesson, the child wants to go and play, we can tell them, you can go and play, first do this. Afterwards, within half an hour or 1 hour, you give the time, then you can go and play. Or just for half an hour or 1 hour, you can go and play and then come back and do that. Like that, we have to handle it. Totally putting a full stop, it will not work.
Yeah, any thoughts on this, Jyoti? I'll tell you the situation. So this is a common situation. I think everywhere
I think I can
the gadgets are there.
understand the situation.
The social media
Yeah,
is
yes, I can
there.
understand the situation
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
Because I'm a teacher myself, and all my parents have the same kind of complaint. But yes,
Yeah.
I'll tell you, that's the reason why most of the time I understand parents much better, because I know that they're good. See, if I tell this, maybe some people don't like it, but in a house where there's a teenage child, the parents either get BP or sugar immediately. That's how the things are.
Right.
And once they go to a physician, go to any physician, general physician, the physician first tells them or ask them about the children and their age. That is a question which doctors are adding in their list of questions, because that is how the things are. The parenting is the most difficult task on this earth now. But when it comes to gadgets, Instagram and other things, the only thing you can do is you can only fix a time. That's all. Saying that this is a time for Instagram and this is a time you have to study. But if you ask me a honest question, most of the time it doesn't work, because at that age, children are very emotional, and when you ask them to study at a particular time, they don't want to study. So these things happen, and I say it's a passing phase, and you have to be a bit patient. That is, and take care of yourself and your mental and your emotional health also. That's more important, because it's a very difficult phase. Instagram, Facebook, and all these things, whatever are coming up now, are eating away the time of the child, and Twitter and so many other things also. But the best way to deal with it is only fixing up a certain time. Like, this is your Instagram time, and this is your. Just try it. I don't promise it is going to work, but that is one option which you can try. It also depends upon the child whether he allows it to happen or not.
So creating a structured time plan and helping the child also. See, so when we say that, teenagers or young people are kind of addicted or spending too much of time on social media, I personally feel that even adults are into the same thing. We may not accept it, but especially in the times like lockdown, I feel a lot of people are into social media. And being when at a time when the young people have a lot of friends and a lot of things to talk about, so it's natural tendency to do that. But it can be, you can work out sit down, discuss, work out a time schedule so that the studies also go on and they can also do their communication with the friends and whatever they want to do. So we have one more question which is kind of coming on to our next point. In any case, this is from Mahipal Reddy. Let me flash it on the screen. So it says that I want to know what is the increasing suicidal tendency among the young one. How as a teacher I can identify that? Are there any risk factors there which can be modified? What is the role of a teacher to gain the assurance of students? How should I behave with this type of students?
Mahipal Reddy, I really congratulate Mahipal Reddy for asking this question, because there's a teacher which is speaking in front of in this question, and I really love it. When you want me to answer it, when you go to our old days, the older generation days, they were teachers when they used to know everything what is happening in the life of a child. They should talk about the home, the house atmosphere, the things, how their things are at home. There was a kind of a personal communication which used to go between a teacher and a student. But nowadays, whatever may be the scenario, we are more concerned about marks. But I feel if a teacher spends at least 15 minutes in a classroom speaking about the general issues and trying to know the children better, you can easily identify the signs and symptoms in a student, especially when they are depressed, when there are some issues which are going on. Suppose a student who is very good at studies suddenly loses his interest. That is something which you have to think about. And don't just go for the marks. Sometimes they are very clever, they get the marks, but they're actually not interested in the subject. You also should understand the body language when they're sitting and they're conversing and they're talking. And sometimes there's a student who is very communicative, an extrovert who becomes an introvert. Or sometimes an introvert who becomes an extrovert. It's the most dangerous symptom in a student. if he's an introvert and suddenly he becomes an extrovert. That means he's trying something differently, and there is a strong reason behind that. So a teacher should always have a kind of a personal relation with the student, where come and talk to you anything. And remember, you should be a liaison between the family and the student's family and the society, because you should give the space for a student to come and speak anything, whether it's a sexual issue or whether it's an attraction issue or something which is going between a boy and a girl. It's not something like you're collecting gossip. You should be always be ready to listen to what the child says. And many a times, as a teacher, I have observed the most difficult situations come out in this conversation. So I feel among the 45 minutes slot, whatever is given to you in a timetable, 30 minutes if you give to your academic, the 15 minutes which you talk and speak and generally try to communicate with the students are very important, and that is where you can identify the signs and symptoms. And it's very easy as a teacher, because if you once understand the nature of a student and you observe with the student, there's so many things which come out, because it's a very tender age. They become very aggressive. The anger issues come out in the students. Mostly, the eyes of the students are not polluted in this world. I think if they at least at the age of 20 or 30, they learn the act of hiding their emotions behind the face. But at that tender age, as students, their eyes display a lot. As a teacher, eye-to-eye communication, if you are ready with the student, you easily understand the student is going on through some issue. I do this, and I believe that this is how you actually can recognize students who are facing problems. And most of the students who are into alcohol abuse and bad company also, they tend to open up with the teachers when you just give them a little bit a clue that you are communicative and you are understanding. So
Very
this is
nice.
how you have to divide your subject like that, because I feel that academically for marks that a half an hour is not as important as that 15 minutes what you're giving to your class, and that really gives you a lot of satisfaction also as a teacher and as an observer. It's my personal experience. And
Very nicely put across. I fully agree that, because we don't live in joint families anymore, apart from the parents, the students don't have very many people, elders, whom they can approach and talk to. And teacher can become that Roshni, that light, that listening ear where they can share their problems. And wherever like you said, the teacher can become the bridge between the student and the parent as well. And that will happen through observation, that will happen through understanding, and that will happen through regular discussion apart from this subject, I think. And I remember as a student, I remember the teachers who used to do this with us, in the sense that we used to listen to our other problems also, and we always remember them. Maybe we have forgotten the subject, but we'll never forget those teachers who listened to us about our problems and who helped us to overcome all these emotional or social issues. So we have one more question. So let me just show that here. Okay. So this is a comment. It's not a question. Yeah. So like you said that everybody is going through tough times. So let us be accepting, and even as parents, we should accept that we are doing a good job and doing our best. Same with the students as well. So can you throw some light on, this is for Rajlakshmi. Can you throw some light on what are the signs we need to notice? How do we get to know that somebody is stressed, depressed, worried? What are the signs? How do we know that a child or somebody, what is it like? Can you just throw some light on that?
Yeah, we can see their behavior pattern changing, or going into a nutshell, not talking openly or anything, and getting angry for anything, and disorderly eating habits and sleeping habits. All those things also, that throws light when we have to observe it closely. Why this change has come suddenly? What is the reason behind it? That we have to talk to the child in a proper manner, and slowly we have to find out. We can't rush anything with the child. That's the one big thing. We can't be in a hurry to find out the reason. We have to spend some time with them, and slowly we have to ask them.
Okay, that's very interesting. So changes in behavior, changes in talking patterns, changes in food patterns, sleeping patterns. So,
Although,
and suddenly being from introvert, he becomes extrovert or extrovert to introvert. So
yeah,
basically it's a change in patterns which we need to observe. And when it
observe.
happens over a stretch, over a longer period of time, that is when we need to be concerned. And like you said, try to get it out gently and not like at the push of a button.
Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. Anything you would like to add, Jyoti?
Yeah, signs and symptoms is one thing. As sometimes it's very easy to find them now because usually they say that every suicide person who commits suicide talks about it sometime or other. Either they'll be talking about suicide, they'll be talking about running away, or they'll be talking about life being a mess and that they're not able to cope up with it. And sometimes they try to come and speak out about the problem, and usually others brush up saying, "Yeah, this is just a small problem. Just मेरे साथ तो और भी बहुत कुछ होता था," something like this. So if you get into that kind of conversation, when a person wants to talk, some people are not in touch with you, but suddenly they want to connect to you and they want to talk. Understand that there is something which is going in that person's life and he wants to say something. He is searching for a person, searching for a listening ear. The only thing to understand the signs and symptoms is be patient and be a listener. Don't brush away what other people say. Sometimes when you are among friends, let the other person talk and you understand them, you listen to them. And sometimes maybe you may not identify the problem, maybe there is no solution for a problem, but talking and listening helps. And I feel many times when you are not able to find out the signs and symptoms and you lose a person also, when you go back and think about it, you understand that somewhere or other the person in his own way was trying to communicate that the things are not right with him, but we are not able to understand. It needs some time, and the biggest thing is take the other person as a human. We are having all kinds of communication, but we don't have the humanistic approach. We
Right.
brush people aside. We brush
Okay.
people aside. We don't listen to them. Somebody comes and tells and talks to you saying that I lost my pet dog and I'm feeling suicidal. The other person just laughs and say like people are dying and he's dying. He's crying for a pet dog, and the person immediately shuts down. Maybe he's so lonely, and next day he may go and try to commit suicide or try to be away from the world in a different way. So when any person is talking about a problem, you may find it is a very small one, but still listen. That's how you can identify what's going in the other person's life.
Very nice. Very nice. So let me post one more question here, which says
He
that
got as a gift, birthday gift, or first time he bought. That is very important for him. Just that pen may be just 10 rupees. Whereas
Yeah.
for we people, 10 lakh or 1 crore, we think that is the biggest loss. But for that child, that 5 rupees pen is the biggest important thing. That we have to understand. The child is crying, just 5 रुपया का pen गुम हो गया, तुम बैठ कर रोते हो. We should not brush them like that. That time we
right,
should behave like a small child only.
right, right. So this question says, suppose we did our best and everything went well, but when the child is over 20 and develops some mental health issues, what to do now? Okay, that's very interesting question. By
I
Vandana.
just want to say that every parent in his or her way will try to do the best. Sometimes children come out successfully, sometimes they don't come out successfully. That doesn't mean that parents were at fault. As parents, we have to understand that everybody has done the best to the children in the possible way. So that is one question which every parent has to put it for herself, and they should be assured that they have done the best. And the second thing is, suppose something happens for a child over 20, and still there are some mental health issues. That's a question. But what kind of mental issues, health issues? Like, are you talking in the medical terms that there is something actually, so there's some problem in the child, or you feel it's only a behavioral issue? We have to understand these two things. A behavioral issue can happen at any age, especially from 20 to 30 also, when the child must have gone through some relationship problems or some peer pressure problems, which is not able to communicate, and suddenly after 20, he may show signs and symptoms of aggressiveness and anger and all those things. At that time, it is always better to take him to a counselor if he's not communicating to you properly. And if you're talking about mental health issues like bipolar and schizophrenia and all, yes, there are certain issues which you cannot identify when the child is very small. But sometimes when he crosses his teens, maybe they are identified. Many bipolar issues people have been identified after 20s only. At that case, take help. There's medical help provided. Please take him to the counselor. The counselor suggests whether he needs psychiatric help or counseling is enough for him. Please don't hesitate to take help. Remember that as a body needs treatment, a mind also needs treatment sometime in your life. So accept that. As parents, be open with that there is a problem with the child. Please take him. But please don't blame yourself for whatever is happening in your child's life. In that case, you as a parent cannot help the child properly also. The parents have to be confident to reach out to the child properly. So if you are full of guilt and self-pity, what strength can you pass on to your child when he really needs it?
So what you're saying is seek help wherever you feel like the person has said that like depression. So best is to seek help, seek counseling. And that brings me to the very, very important point, which is again a very, very important issue. I think you need to throw some light on. Is this stigma attached to mental health and taking counseling, taking help? Everyone is hesitant. So can you just help remove these fears and a bit of this stigma or this kind of talk which goes on about counseling and seeking help?
Coming to stigma can only happen if you are more concerned about what the world thinks about you. As human beings, we are more concerned about what other people think about us, not about our personal lives. So most of the time we spend our energies in helping others understand that everything is okay with us. Suppose there's a domestic violence problem at your home, you just come out of the house, dry your ears and eyes, and you just pose as if everything is okay with you. The problem is just there. So most of the time in India, mostly, we try to please others. Please come out of this attitude. Once you come out of this attitude, acceptance becomes very easy. Ultimately, you have to be happy and your family has to be happy. And there should be peace around. For that, when you find there is a problem, which is a physical problem or a mental problem also, accept it, because when you accept it, the acceptance is very difficult. But when you cross the stage and accept and understand that there is a problem, it is easy to go into the options. But when you are stuck in the first stage itself and not ready to accept that there is a problem, then you cannot help the other person, and sometimes the problem increases and you will come to a stage where you cannot seek help also. So instead of that, don't live for others, live for yourself. Do the best and live in the best way where you can be happy and your family can be happy. In that case, if there is a problem in your family, accept it. Don't think, because none of the others outside your family are going to come and help you. They may only guide you if they are your friends, and they cannot be in your shoes and take your problem totally
Right.
to their lives. So you please understand this and don't live for others, live for yourself. Your child has a problem, accept it, that my child has a problem and I as a parent have to help him come out of it, whether it's a physical problem or a mental.
Right. So
Yes.
I believe that Roshni also does programs in schools and colleges.
Yeah.
So Raj Lakshmi, could you tell us about what kind of programs you do, and if somebody wants your programs to be done, how would you be able to help them? Can you throw some light on that?
Yeah, we go to schools and colleges, especially during the exam time when the children are under severe stress. We go and talk to them, and we just introduce ourselves, and then we talk to one-to-one also. If some child wants to talk to us, some student, we take them in a confidential and one-to-one without any disturbance or anybody like that, and they can talk to us whatever they want, and we discuss to them only about the situation and how they can come out of it and all those things. We can ask them to analyze the situation.
Okay.
And colleges also the same thing. Whatever may be the situation, and we first give them the guarantee that it is absolutely confidential. Whatever they say will not go out. It will be in between.
Right. Okay.
So they can talk to us freely.
Right. So that's a very interesting thing. I think schools and colleges is the right place to help the children to understand these issues. And they should also know that there are people in this world who can listen to their problems and help them solve it if they're not able to get it done at home. And it's okay because everybody is not a specialist. Everybody is not trained to listen and give help or give some advice. Right. So let's take a few questions from the audience. If you have any questions, we are in the last 10 minutes of our program. Please post your questions for our panelists. So we have a question from Triveni. If a child's home atmosphere is affecting and the child is not able to concentrate in studies, how to help the child? So can you answer this question, Jyoti?
Yeah, home atmosphere.
Is it like a teacher? Somebody asked like a teacher when if child's home atmosphere is affecting and the child is not able to concentrate in studies.
How to help the child? It looks like that. Triveni, can you clarify on that?
Is it like a teacher or a counselor? I'm not able to.
Go ahead. Let's presume that she's a teacher.
The best way is like if you have a child whose home atmosphere is not good, you cannot displace the child from the home. Like he has to accept that some things. Yes, it's a teacher who's asking. So yeah, it's you have to understand that the child cannot be removed totally from the home. He has to understand that things are not proper at his house and he has to live with it. So you have to help him. If you are a teacher, if you can provide him any other alternative atmosphere where he can learn, he can teach. There are some friends. Like what I as a teacher do is I actually put them in a group where there is a child and you assign that person and he will take the role of a teacher and help the person. So that way you can, for a temporary period, this boy can go to somebody else's place and he can study there if it is only concerned with studies. But if there's an emotional problem there, you have to help make the child understand that it is a fact that he has to be in that home. So he also has to practice a kind of detachment. Suppose it's an alcoholic parent. So he has to understand whatever the parent is yelling or shouting there, he has to understand that there is a kind of a detachment procedure which he has to practice right from his younger days. Because I come from a government background, so where most of my children have got alcoholic parents, and that is what disturbs them. So in that case, we provide them a different kind of atmosphere in the school or the college level where they are put in the classroom for some extra hours where they study there and then they go back home. And then you try to be very friendly with them and help them understand that the family is something which is a lifelong problem. So develop a kind of detachment. Though they are your parents and they are giving you problems, you should understand what to take and what not to take.
That's very interesting.
And as a teacher, you have total control on child's academics. You can always call the parent and make the child sit there for extra hours with you in the college. And you can provide some 2 or 3 extra hours to the child where he can study. And that happens in government setup. I don't know how it's happening in the private sector, but in government setup, I'm lucky to say that it does happen. We do sit down with them for extra hours and see that they are with us, at least academically.
That's very interesting session you have given, that creating groups within the classroom where the child, one bright student can help another student. I think that's a wonderful idea and it can be definitely done in schools. So let me take one more question from the audience. It says that if a child is in depression, takes the decision that is to run away from the house without knowing the correct reason. I'm not able to understand the question. So Shreya, if you are there, can you just clarify this question? Are you able to understand the question, ma'am?
I mean, the child, maybe it is something like the child is unhappy with the house situation, he wants to run away.
Maybe.
Is it like that? Well, that's a situation where you have to be very patient and help the child understand that home is a little prison and the world is a bigger prison. So when he is incapable of actually facing a little prison, then how capable will he be when he comes out in the bigger prison?
Bigger prison.
Yes. See, children, just as I told you, like we all think that when there's a problem, the best way to come out of it is run away from the problem. So that is a kind of attitude where, luckily, to a generation before, we had something called moral classes, moral education in a syllabus, where such things were discussed. Teachers used to talk about small stories, simple stories, where such things were wisely discussed. And where we used to taught that there is a smaller line, there's a line, and you have to make it small. You only have to draw a bigger line. So if there is a smaller problem, to run away from it, don't fall into bigger problems. That's what youngsters mostly do. And falling in relationships also is something like that, because they're not happy with what the relationship what they're having with their parents. They want to have something else outside, and they fall into
Right.
relationships which become a bigger problem in their life. So it is
Right.
always better to face the problem as it is, so that you'll be ready for a bigger problem. So
Fantastic. So,
a child should never be encouraged to run away from anything. Be it
Right,
a problem, be it a person, or be it a situation.
so
He or
never
she
run
has
away,
to be encouraged to face the situation.
face the problem
Never run away
and
from it.
seek help. Wherever you are, seek help, listen to some advice, or you can always call up Roshni, and we have wonderful people out there who are going to listen to your problem and give you, maybe you will find a way out. And let me post one more thought from our regular viewer, Lekha. I like the reassurance given to parents not to blame themselves. They must stay educated and reach for help. Well done, the guest speakers, and very useful sessions, he says. So I think that's a very, very important thing, the reassurance that we are all in a kind of a storm, we are doing our best, everyone is doing the best. Parents as well as the children, they should pat themselves on the back and say we have done our best, and keep evolving and looking for solutions rather than blaming. So even self-blame is bad, and blaming others is also, I think, that creates problems. And I think looking for solutions without running away is a key point, I think, which we all need to take care. Any other questions, please post. Otherwise, I'm going to wind up with our final thoughts from.
There's one question, Riaz.
Yes.
There's one question, Riaz. Somebody has written saying, doesn't have a good face, look is treated as a friend when they need a help, and treated as a stranger when they don't need any help. I just answered it the way I understood it. They need to say that when somebody needs help, maybe they come and they'll approach you as a friend, and they don't need help, they treat you as a stranger. I think you should be very lucky people treat you as a stranger, because people don't need you. People don't need help. That means they're happy. If you truly love them, let them be happy.
Oh,
so
interesting.
As Roshni, we will never be happy when people call us up and say, hey, today I got 30 calls. When suppose the day comes when people don't need Roshni, that is the real day when we'll be happy as different as the people don't need us. They're happy in their own way.
Okay, that's
so when somebody treats you as a friend when they need you, be their friend. And somebody treats you as a stranger when they don't need you, be happy that they don't need you and they are happy in their own way. And if you love them, let them be happy.
Very nice. Very interesting.
So that is how you have to train yourself and never be feel sorry that people are not around you. Sometimes being alone makes you very strong. Very strong.
Fantastic.
So the bigger the tree is a banyan tree. The banyan tree is always alone, but it gives shelter to a lot of birds. And they only come when they are in need. Once the need is over, they go away.
Great thought.
So be a banyan tree, not a grass.
Be like a tree, give shade, give flowers, give fruits to everybody without expecting anything back. They'll come to you when you need them. Yeah, Rajlakshmi, could you give your final words?
Final word, Roshni. Yeah, Roshni is a voluntary organization that values human life. We listen, we care. That's what.
We listen, we care. So listening is caring. Fantastic.
We listen, we care.
Anu says thank you for the session. Thank you, Anu, for those kind words. And Tabassum says thank you for the speakers. Very useful session. Loved it. Thank you. I hope some of your ideas you can take them and use them in your life. And Shreya also says thank you. Yeah, Jyoti, any ending thoughts as we wind up this session?
Yeah, I only want to tell that there may be times when you really feel life is very difficult, but even then, please don't give up. Say no to suicide. We have to live because there's a purpose for everyone's life here on this planet. We'll make the purpose alone or with people around us. We will make our own path, but please don't give up on life, because life definitely is worth living. We have to make it worth living. Your people are very young and you have got a lot of life and a lot of energies. Please channel your energies positively and try being a human on this planet, and you'll enjoy life. Thank you so much. And whenever you feel low or depressed, please have a number. There's nothing wrong to feel low or depressed. And whenever you feel like talking to somebody or you feel you don't have people around, please call Roshni. Roshni is always there. Note
Very
down the
nice. So-
numbers. And as you have 100 for police and 108 for ambulance, please have 6620 and 6620 for Roshni for helping people. We are here to listen. We are there. And remember that before you take a drastic step. Thank you.
Very nice. So whenever you are in trouble, please reach out to someone. And if you feel that no one around you is able to help you, reach out to Roshni. Their numbers are given, their email is given. It's a wonderful thing that we have an organization here in Hyderabad, which is doing this pioneer work, great work in helping out people who are in trouble and changing and transforming and helping so many lives to be strong and help them when they need it the most. So I truly appreciate Jyoti and Raj Lakshmi for being here and sparing your time and sharing your thoughts and ideas. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to get benefited. Those who are listening to this program and those who are getting affected by these people who are listening to this program, because every good thought, every good word which you say spreads like a wave, spreads like a ripple in the water, and it touches the lives of so many other people. Thank you all, and have a nice day. Good night. Thank you for all your lovely comments. I hope I was able to answer. In case not able to answer, please post in our Facebook group, and you can call up the number. The number is given. The mail is given. And with that, we'll close this session. Thank you, and good night to everybody.